Hello. Thank you for joining us. It's weird to
Yeah,
say Nathan after all this time. Even in high school, I still called you Ludwig. But anyways, thank you for joining us, Nathan Ludwig. How have you been today?
been good. Just been doing homework and been got home from work about 2 hours now, 2 hours ago now. So
Oh, about the same almost for me. What do you do for work currently?
right now I'm working for the church at Beehive Clothing. So I'm like working on like garments and different things like that.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. So you served a mission. You served a mission starting in 2015 to 2017, correct?
Yep, that's right.
How how was that experience for you? Like if you had to sum it up in one phrase, how would you do that?
In one phrase, I'd probably describe it as not the best 2 years of my life, but the best 2 years for my life.
Yeah, no, those words are really true. So since they were not the best 2 years of your life, especially with the trainer you had, I heard he was quite the piece of work. How has those 2 years helped you be who you are now?
Well, with those 2 years, it wasn't just my trainer. My trainer actually helped me a lot. He helped me realize I needed to change a few things, even in my starting area. But it helped me really realize the importance of the gospel, especially as it pertains to my own life. And like, since my mission, I have had found that I've had a stronger testimony since like from before my mission, like compared to before my mission. My study has been better. My church attendance has been more meaningful. My temple attendance has been more meaningful and prevalent, I guess. But like, the mission kind of changed pretty much everything for me, especially as it pertains to the gospel. Does that kind of answer the question?
Yeah, it does. What do you actually bring up an interesting phrase. Your church attendance and your studies have been more meaningful. Like,
Mhm.
what do you mean more meaningful?
Well, before my mission, um, I would just go to church every Sunday. I wouldn't, really participate or try to participate. I just kind of be in the back row. On occasion, I still do that. Depends on how I am that day, but most part, I'll try to participate and kind of really listen and hone in on what the speakers are saying in sacrament meeting or in Sunday school. And as far as scriptures, it's like I rarely studied any of my scriptures before my mission. Like before my mission, I only read through the Book of Mormon and in its entirety like once, and that was like right before I went into the MTC. But now it's, I'm studying every day. At least with this last couple of weeks, I've been studying every day. Sometimes I can only get 5 scriptures in, but lately I've been doing a whole chapter. But now it's more of a priority for me, I guess, when before it wasn't as high on my priority list.
So, kind of to describe it, at the time before your mission, it was more of you were going through the motions. You were doing it because you just always been told kind of what you should be doing. You didn't really question it. But versus now, you're actively making the choice that this is something that's important to you. Would you say that's correct?
I think that about sums it up. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah. So I honestly have to say though, you serving a mission, like from my understanding, like that was a big step for you. Like that was a big challenge alone.
Mm-hmm.
What was some of the challenges you faced when you had to make the choice if you would serve a mission or not?
Um, Well, really, for me at the time, I decided to turn in my papers and to serve. I didn't really have any too much going on. I wasn't sure what I wanted. Sounds like my dad's doing something upstairs. Sorry about that. Um, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I knew that I was always told to go on a mission. Um, but I didn't really have anything planned up to that point as far as school. Like I knew that I at some point wanted to be married, of course, but that's always the goal of every member of the church. So it's like there wasn't really anything on the table other than a mission. So it's like, okay, let's just do this and we'll figure it out when I get home, sort of thing.
Yeah, but But you still face some certain challenges, though, specifically in regards to what could have, I guess, prevented you from being able to serve a mission in regards to your physical well-being.
I guess yeah, there were some physical things like I have scoliosis, but like that wasn't a huge concern to me as far as serving because I hadn't had super bad back pain up to that point. And yeah, I had some health issues like at one point, um, like before I like first I want to say it was like first 2 weeks in the mission field. I got a kidney stone. So it's like, yeah, there was still physical issues with going on a mission, but for me, it's like it still wasn't a huge worry from what I remember, at least
Yeah,
as
I
far
know.
as
I know
health.
there was a little bit of concern before you came out because yes, your scoliosis, emissions are very physically demanding. Like
Mhm.
you are just on the go constantly. And I also so there was something about your foot was also an issue and concern, and a couple other things too. Like, the, to you, you've been able to work through this, but like to a lot of people, like those are just some things like you look at and you hear, and it's just a lot of people have a lot of concern. And
Mhm.
that's just kind of what has always fascinated me is hearing these things. It's like, oh my word, wow, that's a lot to try to go through. And anyone could use that as an excuse not to serve a mission, to just kind of basically take the easy route. But you didn't let your limitations actually hinder you. Like you just flat out ignored them. You had
Mhm.
other things that you were more worried about and focused on. So honestly, that was just something that you pretty much just kind of answered the question. Like those were pretty much nothing to you. Even though you said you didn't really have much going on, you still knew well enough your own capabilities and pretty much what you wanted to do. You still actively made a choice.
Mhm.
And so tell me a little bit about your mission. Like what in your mission changed for you to be, I guess, to the point where you actively said, "Hey, I'm here because I want to be, and everything I'm doing is because I believe in this." At what point did you have that epiphany on your mission?
That's a good question. Um, I think for me, at least, and this, you're gonna find different answers for every single missionary, but for me, it was always just like the small things, and it was always like throughout my mission. I don't know if it was one grand epiphany, like this is why I'm out here, but it was always either serving people or getting along with my companion or serving my companion or meeting other missionaries or teaching people, that ability to teach people. It's like it's always um like that outward looking kind of thing where that's when you realize that's why you're out and why you should stay out and what's keeping you out. um so it's like for me it came in several different times of my mission. Like there was a few times in my starter area that it happened. There's a few times in my second, and I can't necessarily pin down specific points that it happened. But like just in each area, there was one or two little small things, and it was just the small things where it's like, this is why I'm out here. This is why I'm serving. And it's one of those things that really carried me through my mission, especially when it got towards the end and you kind of on that downhill slope. You're almost going home. You're ready to go home almost at that point, if not ready to go home. But it still, those moments put it in perspective of this is why I'm out here and this is what I need to be focused on.
So basically, just continuous growth, continually actively looking at what you need to improve. Would that just be a good way to summarize it?
Yeah, I think that'd be a good way of putting it. Yeah, because it that's what it is. It's continual growth on a mission.
Definitely. Like I've known you for a little bit now, just a little bit, and I've got an idea. Like you're one that if there's something you have a goal, you're just gonna put your mind to it. You're gonna look for whatever is holding you back, and you're just gonna try to overcome it. You're gonna try to actually reach your goal, and you know those goals can sometimes be hard and sometimes seem unattainable. But I've seen you put a fair amount of effort into it, more than a lot of people would be willing to. And so, kind of keeping that in mind, like, what motivates you now currently to just actively stay a good person? Like, a lot of people, when they come off missions, they go back to their normal lives and sometimes back to old habits, and they have to make choices. What makes you still, I guess, what standard do you hold yourself to a point where you keep yourself accountable to make a continuous choice?
That's actually something that's kind of been on my mind recently, like because I've always been active in the church. There's not been a time where I'm like, oh, I should become less active. And like you said, there's a lot of missionaries that don't hold themselves to a standard and go back to their regular lives. I think for me, and like I said, this has been really reflected on recently. I really need to focus on the person that God wants me to become. And right now, for me, that um, is someone that is always worthy to hold the priesthood, someone that is always worthy to hold the temple recommend. And part of that comes with a certain set of responsibilities of keeping yourself spiritually strong, which, that is different for everyone and looks different for everyone. But for me, it's doing those small things. And, sometimes it is hard to keep my goals still, like with school's kicking my butt. And sometimes I just want to throw my hat back in and or throw my hat out, whatever the expression is, and give up on
Throw
it.
in the
But
towel.
that's it. Thank you. Throw in the towel. But it's one of those things where throwing in the towel rarely does anyone any good. When regardless of your goals, you're going to experience pushback, you're going to experience stress, you're going to experience difficulty, but it's a matter of keep pushing yourself and keeping that standard of what you set for yourself. And I think it's important too, not only that you set for yourself, but you set it with God. And for me right now, that's just being a worthy priesthood holder. That way I can be of a help to him in any time that he needs of me, if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense. And so you mentioned you're in school. What are you currently in school for? Like, what is your current life goals?
So, as far as school currently, um, I am taking a couple online classes at BYU Idaho. I used to go up to campus, but year, last year and this year, I'm doing online classes mostly just because the drive up there is not ideal. But I'm studying psychology. What I currently want to do with that, I have no clear answer yet. Whether I want to actually do something with that major in and of itself, I'm unclear yet. Um, right now, I'm just trying to gain an education, and working with the church and in that environment, I really like it. So I might look to see if I can apply it somewhere there.
So, like LDS Family Services kind of type thing.
Maybe, or wherever, because sometimes even jobs just look that you have a bachelor's. So it could just be that I go to a different position where, I can continue to work for the church and with the church. I mean, it could be LDS Family Services, it could be something else. That one I'm not 100% clear on yet.
No, I mean, that's perfectly fine. Like, you're still a young itty bitty guy. You've got your whole life ahead of you. You got plenty of time. Like, it's not like procrastinate, but you've still got time to basically say, hey, I've made a plan. I've started my plan, but there's always room for changes. Like, a lot of people don't have that clarity. Like, it's all or nothing type thing, not basically being flexible and doing what you feel and needs to be, because we're constantly changing. Like, you're not the
Yeah.
same person you were in high school. I can definitely tell that. For one, you look a lot more edgy, like you're running some, I don't know, like you're the behind the guy, operations type guy for some espionage agency right now. But like in high school, you were just the box kid, the little mascot, pretty much. Like you were the happy go lucky.
Sorry.
Yeah, you just made it. You just made it even more so. You were just the happy-go-lucky, like I'm gonna be happy and talk about Doctor Who. But then, I more longer I've known you, like you still are that same person, but you've definitely grown into things. Like you've definitely like, okay, hey, I want to do this, and so I need to do that. Like, what made you, I guess, want to? Uh, Kind of my mind blank. Forgive me for a second. The just glasses are distracting. Like you just erased my memory or something, Men in Black style. Um, just pretty much like that. You said you're constantly growing. Like, what goes through your mind when you say, "Hey, I need to improve myself in this specific area of my life"?
I think the most important thing, like when I do notice that I need to change something in my life, is remember that it's not going to be an overnight change. Like there may be some days where I take 2 steps forward and then 3 steps back. Or, you know what I mean? Like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, whatever the point is that it's going to be not as fast as I sometimes want. And so, like with change, when I see that I need to change, I also just look for the small little things that I can to get to that goal. Where it's like, say, for instance, if I notice that I need to, this is actually a perfect example. I notice I need to read the scriptures more than just maybe a couple verses at night after I get home from work. Then I realized, well, there's something I could change. I could change my morning routine when I get up in the morning. So now rather than getting up in the morning and just scrolling through Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, whatever, first thing I do when I get up in the morning is I make my bed, I shower, eat breakfast, and then I study my scriptures. And so it's like that little morning routine will now hopefully become a habit. And now I'll have daily scripture study as a constant. I mean, of course, life changes and I might need to change it again. But point is, I made that small little goal of just getting up and changing something, and that moved me towards that goal. And now I'm even closer to that goal of having a meaningful scripture study. Obviously, I can make it even more meaningful by doing different things. But it moves me. I'm making those steps forward, even if they're smaller, even if sometimes it's a step back. It's important to remember that I can make progress. I can reach my goals. I can make those differences in my life that I want to, just to be patient with myself and rely on the Lord to do it.
Wow, that's definitely something quite powerful right there. Like a lot of people, they basically think if they're not going forward, they're just failing. But you pretty much just described your whole mindset. Like you basically said it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to slip a little bit as long as you're continually trying. Like that's a hard thing to accept in life because any inconvenience, especially when they do get major, especially when it's like physical health, like I brought up before with you, like a lot of people can just use that as a reason to quit or just to give up or just be like, oh, I need someone else to pick up my slack. But you and many people, like, you are going to constantly face setbacks. You're going to constantly face stuff that's going to drag you back a little bit. But it's what you do with those setbacks, what choices you make. That's what's really going to define who you are and where you're going to see the real change. And you just captured that perfectly. So I do appreciate that. Thank you. And so, keeping that in mind, when you bring up setbacks like that, like it's easy just to say, "Oh, I had one setback," but when you have one after the other, you're just making negative ground.
Mhm.
Like a lot of people don't realize how realistic that is even now. And so, if you had to share with people who are just constantly feeling like they're just having one setback after another, like what would you suggest to someone who may be experiencing that? How would you suggest they try to change those setbacks into positive things, I guess you could say?
First thing I would tell them is to not give up hope. Because when you go through something and it's just setback after setback after setback, it could be so easy to throw in the towel, say, I'm done. I don't want to change anymore. I'll never change. But those things are just not true. It's like you need to maintain hope that you will have a better tomorrow, that you will have a better day tomorrow. And I think that is sometimes just the thing is, if you have a bad day and it's just setback after setback with your goals, or even if it's, just constantly tell yourself tomorrow's going to be a better day. Even if it's not a better day, just keep telling yourself tomorrow's going to be a better day. And, specifically, it'd be best to have hope and faith in the Savior for that. If it's more someone that doesn't believe in the Savior for whatever reason, I'd still say, like, don't give up hope and change. You can make a difference in your own life despite the setbacks. And then, I'd also encourage them to look at what's setting them back and see what they can change about it. Sometimes, with our own setbacks and things that are preventing us from reaching our goal, they are out of our control. And then we take that, and that's what disheartens us. But like I said, we can't. Again, I'm just going to say hope a lot, maintain that hope of change. Take what you can't control and put it to the side, especially when it comes to setbacks. But take what you can of those setbacks and try to tweak it and try multiple different things. Because, I'm going to kind of paraphrase here, but what came to mind was when Thomas Edison was inventing the light bulb, papers started to write that he had failed after he had failed over 1,000 times. And he's said, I didn't fail. I just found 1,000 ways it didn't work. And so it's like it's all about that mindset of like, no, I can make a difference. I can change that perspective. And he changed that negative from a positive. He realized that there's so many things he can't control, but made it to something that he can.
Yeah. Like that's just one of the things even I still struggle with. Like it feels like you're in a stagnant, like you are just failing yourself, like that you should be actively trying to do something. But sometimes, like you said, there's just some things we can't control. And all we have to do is look for what we can control, trying to be able to take those very small moments we have where we can basically be a little better than we were the day before. Something that's I'm really happy about that is just kind of a more of a, I guess you could say, growing movement is just care for mental health. Because
Mm-hmm.
mental health is a real thing, as despite how
Well,
many people in older
mm-hmm.
generations may try to say it's not. Even some younger generations still don't believe in mental health.
Yeah.
But it's like there are some people that just literally have days where it's feels like you're running a marathon just to even do the dishes or just to even get out of bed and just even take care of yourself. Like no matter what, like you said, just taking that one extra day, taking that one step forward as much as you can, even if you keep having to take a few steps back for whatever reason, just not giving up hope for whatever it is you have hope in. That's really powerful. And I absolutely love that because that's one thing for me myself. I've had to really try to, I guess you could say, focus on in my life is just trying
Mm-hmm.
to remember that despite how horrible I may feel, despite how much of a failure I may feel like constantly, I just need to realize that, it's sometimes I just gotta do what I can do. I sometimes just need to get through the day and make it to tomorrow and just hope that tomorrow can be slightly better. So I really appreciate you bringing all these things up. Just the small changes we can be better just from day to day, not just be those big goals of, oh, I want to be a doctor someday or I want to be a this or that. Like those are a lot of big lofty goals, but there's little steps along the way that people need to take that they sometimes neglect to think about. And so if you were to give some advice to someone who is trying to set a goal for themselves, what is the best advice you can give to someone and how to plan a goal out?
And this question is a good one, and I think I kind of touched on it a little bit already with when I was talking about my own goals. Is you might have a major goal, like you said, becoming a doctor, becoming this, that, or the other, or doing this. It's start with small goals and try to roadmap how that leads to your big goals. So, like for instance, if it's to become a doctor, it's to okay, to become a doctor, I need to go to med school. But generally, to go to med school, you need to have some other kind of schooling before then. So maybe look at what colleges to go to get a good education to be able to apply to med school. And then go even further back. It's like, okay, to apply to this school, I need to maybe study for this test or save up money to pay for tuition or apply for scholarships. Or, to save up money, I need to have a job. It's just going to be those small little steps. Like just make sure if you're setting a goal, you know, make sure you have a roadmap for that goal. Unless it's something simple like, oh, I have a goal to wash the dishes tomorrow. It probably doesn't take a huge roadmap to do the dishes tomorrow. But like with the big lifetime goals, if you don't have some sort of roadmap or I guess vision to reach that goal, it's going to be really hard to attain it. So it's just a matter of making sure that you have something planned in advance to make it to that goal.
I love how you brought up the analogy of mapping it out. Because with a roadmap, like you constantly have to be checking it. You constantly have to be glancing over saying, hey,
Mm-hmm.
I'm at point A. I need to get to point B and then to point C. But you're not constantly looking at it. Otherwise, you're not going to see where you're going. You're not going to see where you've been either.
Exactly.
And you can't also just not look at the map either, because then you're going to miss whatever you need to get in between. It's a fine balance. Because with goals, like, yeah, you may set a goal and it may seem overwhelming. There's a lot that goes into just being whoever you want to be. But mapping it out, like you said, is just taking, okay, where do I need to get to? What do I need to get there? Where do I start?
Mm-hmm.
And just going from destination to destination until you get to that final goal. Because you have to constantly be looking at go say, hey, these are the steps I need to take. Cool. But once you look at those goals too much, you start obsessing, saying, oh, I'm not making enough progress fast enough, or I haven't made it as far. And then you ignore the progress you've made and you start to feel overwhelmed. So I
Right.
love that you bring that up. It's just a fine balance when it comes to life.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, again, I just have to give you a lot of credit. You've made a lot of changes, you've made a lot of goals, you've made leaps and bounds just to become who you are today. And I don't know if it's appropriate to say, but I definitely have to say that when you served your mission, I feel like a switch was turned in on you that you went from, I guess you could say happy-go-lucky to, hey, I'm in charge of my life. I need to make my life what I want it to be. And I definitely have to say you've kept your faith very centered in your heart, and that's what's made you very strong to be who you are today. So I just want to thank you for that. And I just
Thank
want
you.
to thank you for sharing that with us today.
Mm-hmm. Of
Is there
course.
anything else you would like to share
I
or
don't
any
think so.
final messages? All right. Well, you have a great day, Ludwig. Thank you very much and enjoy.
Thank you. You too.